Welcome back to the hot seat, and my second guest today is 11-Bit's game director of Frostpunk 2, Jakub Stokalski. Hello. Welcome, Jakub. Welcome, Kuba. Everything good?
Yes, very good, very good. Thank you so much for inviting me here.
Well, thank you for opening our new show. It's great to have you here, and I wish this interview could last a couple of hours, but we'll...
Well, don't test me, you know, you might get what you want.
We'll try and stay within the time, but, go relaxed through all the questions, because there's a lot to talk about, Kuba. I'd like to start from the weird part of your life, I guess. So Ian was saying before, I have a degree in environmental science, and I ended up doing strategy games. You've got a degree in applied psychology, and
that is correct.
So what went wrong?
Searching for meaning in life, and no, but it is a bit of a history to that, because I when I was growing up in high school and in university, I was notoriously unable to focus on just one specific thing. I got interested by many different things, from mathematics to psychology to philosophy in high school and areas like that. So going into university, I had to pick something. So I tried to pick something that is as interdisciplinary as possible, and that was the strange direction one of Warsaw's universities that was focusing on human-computer interaction in general, right? That was not a very popular degree in Poland back then. It was a psychology major, but what I did during these studies, I was focusing on psychology as applied to interaction with computers, designing interfaces, so a bit of closer to programming a bit as well, and that was me trying to find my way into all of these different things that interest me.
All right, yeah, that's interesting, because then you sort of almost transitioned through. You're saying UX, right? UX design.
Yes,
which is kind of a nice, easy transition. It explains the path to game design.
Yes, because I was playing games since I remember. Like my father was in the 90s. He was setting up in a very burgeoning stage of IT business in Poland. He was setting up one of the companies, IT companies. Was bringing these huge computers back home, and he let me play, and Prince of Persia. TIE Fighter, so these were the games that the really worlds I immersed myself in from the very early. So I played a lot, and in the meantime I was trying to find my way in education, and it turns out you can design interfaces for games as well. So that's why on my third year I started trying to find some work, some internships, and I started by designing interfaces in games.
The role you have had in the in the evolution of Frostpunk, going to the more specific subject of your recent work, is you've transitioned from being on Frostpunk 1, you were designer or lead designer, yes, to being a game director on Frostpunk 2. So is it correct to say that you were almost you transitioned to owning the project and on the second? Or was it?
That is, yes, that's very much true. For Frostpunk 1, the project leads back then was Michał Drozdowski and Przemek Marszał, the co-founders of 11-Bit Studios, and I was lead designer from the very, very beginning of the project. I joined as soon as Frostpunk became Frostpunk, really. But I was very much co-authoring it, right? And as the project wrapped, the idea was that for the company to grow and to try different things internally was for myself and my colleagues to take full ownership of what was Frostpunk 1, its console versions, some of the bigger DLCs, and now coming into the sequel, which was not a given that a sequel would come to be, right? It was I guess part of the identity of our company as we try to do stuff if it makes sense, and if it makes sense if we can find an idea to convey. So yes, that was our road to Frostpunk 2.
The thing is that Frostpunk 2 is a, I mean, it's a sequel, but it's not really a sequel. Right?
Not really.
Yes. It's like, you know, there's a lot of risk-taking exercise that you've applied to that game, and how did that happen? You know, this is interesting because you come from a game that's very successful. The first thing you want to do is, I'm going to do the same thing but bigger, right?
Yes.
But you didn't do that.
Yes. No, we didn't do that. I think this, you know, this reasoning, like why to approach things the way we do, is rooted even before Frostpunk in a game called This War of Mine. You and the viewers might have heard about that little game, and it was a peculiar one because all of this risk-taking, creative risk-taking, really started there. It was not, and you know, no one really had an idea of how well a game designed around conveying survival gameplay, but through a lens of civilians in a besieged city, how well would that go? But that obviously the game did very well for us, for 11-bit studios, and it was kind of this watershed moment where it redefined the whole thinking behind the company, behind why we do the projects that we do, and this element of trying to do something fresh and trying to do something creatively brave that will stay with the players even after they are done playing is at the heart of all the projects that we are doing at the company.
See, so how do you tackle the risk-taking part? I mean, you know, almost like Frostpunk 1 finishes, you know, it's you win against the environment,
yes,
right? And then what happens next?
Yes, exactly. So that was, we always wanted Frostpunk to be this a world that could house many different things, games and not only games included, right? But the trick is exactly as you said. When you take a look at what Frostpunk is, it's a very specific experience, a well put together strategy game that is this engine building gameplay against the increasing pressure of the falling temperatures. And then, you know, it climaxes in this moment where you survive the end of the world. Like you survive the minus 150 degrees great storm, and this is where the game tells you, well, congratulations, you managed to survive. But you know, where do you go from there, really? If we wanted to just do a classic sequel, as you say, so let's more of the same, make it a bit better, add more buildings, and ship it. Then what do? We do even bigger storm, even lower temperatures. You know, minus 150 is already pushing it a bit. So this was not our thinking, right? We wanted to leave Frostpunk 1 for what it is, and it's a great game. But say, okay, so this was part 1 of the story. How can we continue this world? How can we build on it in a unique way that will be still very much has the DNA of this world, but will tell the next sentence in this story, right? So if you survive the end of the world, the natural question becomes like, what comes next? How do we rebuild, and what drives us to rebuild us, and what is the big enemy then? If it's not nature, well, it's human nature, right? And this was the very beginning and the idea behind Frostpunk 2.
So, and I wish I was a fly in one of these meetings where you just like decide that you want to piss off your customers, you know, by defeating all their expectations and saying, okay, let's do something completely or sort of different, and as different as we can, so that, you know, they are like very surprised. And it's not only risk taking; it's like, you know, it's business level risk taking, right? So that's right. Yes, there's an evolution, and you know, you're explaining it in the right way, but you know, what's the
on the field, right? Well, we were fortunate in that we had this idea of doing something bold was rooted throughout the company. It was not, I mean, obviously myself and Łukasz Juszczyk was the game co-director. We wanted to do something ambitious because we wanted to, you know, if they give us, we want to do something great with it. But this idea of being bold was very much present with the board members throughout the company, right? This is really ingrained in who we are. But you are right in the sense that ultimately we are a business. We live by selling these games, and contrary to popular opinion, we do not want to anger our players. We actually want to bring them fresh experiences that will be valuable to them, right? And I guess this is why we do it, in the sense that there is nothing wrong, obviously, with this model of saying it worked, let's do more of the same. But even business-wise, if you look at it, you end up I don't remember who summarized this, but it was shortly after the release of Frostpunk 2 that if you do the classic sequel route, you end up competing with your own games, right? You end up competing with yourself. And by having Frostpunk 1 as it is and Frostpunk 2 the way it is, we not only keep selling Frostpunk 1, Frostpunk 2 sold also well, but it also broadened what the IP itself and what the world itself is, right? And, you know, spoiler alert, we're not done yet, right? We've got Frostpunk 1886 lined up, which is going to bring this more classic Frostpunk 1 vibe extended for the future, which we couldn't do on our past engine. And, you know, who knows what else the future will bring. So
who knows? Well, you probably know.
Well, I might.
you might know something about it. And there's the sort of component of testing and testing reactions in players and such. Do you actually rely on data? On how do you test the ideas with your user base? Well,
the very first test is the gut check of the decision makers at the company, right? And this is not scientific or data driven in the classic sense, but it is important in the sense that the project gets greenlit when we collectively feel we have this idea of what can make it great. But after that, we obviously put our heads down and start building the game, and it takes years and years. And at some point where we feel that it's not so early that it's all gray boxes and, you know, like we can see what the game is, but if we brought someone else from the outside, like what the hell is this, right? So at some point, unfortunately with strategy games, I think this is quite late in the production process because of how many moving pieces you need to have working together to approximate the ultimate experience. But at that time, we do a lot of player testing, right? We try to keep it relatively small because we try to get our data qualitatively, right? We like to interview our players, talk to them, see their reactions, like see what they like, what they didn't like, in like this human reception, not purely on numerical data, which we gather as well, by the way. But we do that repeatedly as soon as we have a game that we feel is representative of what the game is going to be, and we do that and repeat it every milestone to see whether we are on track.
You said before this is a part of the company's mission, right? To create these games with sort of a twist in terms of, you said earlier to me something that remains in people's minds,
yes,
right?
Yes.
And you've just released The Alters, which is another game that, definitely, remains in people's minds. There's one thing that is very clear. It's a very risky type way of doing business. Is it kind of the process here? I can see this in Hollywood as well, where they're trying to sort of put more of these angles, like psychological angles in movies like, the recent Thunderbolts and so on. So, even big blockbusters, but with a twist and such. So what's the process there? Understanding how that works. Is it something you test first? Is it something that, comes out of, building it together? Is it, was it?
Well, we like to think of ourselves as being idea driven, right? So I can speak for myself, right? There's all of this background that I have, for instance, in psychology and adjacent fields. I feel that it gives me a lot of background. I try not to use this knowledge explicitly in decision making of how to, let's say, make something more addictive, right? There is an ample body of knowledge in psychology on how to design human behavior and mechanics so that they become addictive, and this is how you get dark patterns in UX, right? You get apps that just stimulate your brain in a way that you feel obliged to actually interact with it. But I not only do I think that it's not really ethical, I don't ultimately feel this is very good for the business in the sense that it's not. It's optimizing for the wrong thing. We are in the entertainment business where we entertain our players with unique, fresh experiences. And there is no way to, I believe, you need to have a lot of background, and it's good to have a lot of knowledge data to feed into your creative process. But then what happens in the moment where you decide what to and how to make it, this is this magic moment that there is no measure for, really. It happens internally, and it's this creativity is not measured for a reason, right? In these contexts.
11-bit is a big company, I guess, but is there any sharing of other teams sharing their stuff and getting more ideas from do you have any input on the alters or other games, or what's the process there?
Part of the getting feedback, playtest feedback on the game as we are building it is like these very early stages. We can actually test the game internally in the company earlier than we do with the players, because for the players it's difficult to explain what a gray box is, right? But for a developer, everyone knows what if something is a gray box, and there's probably something prettier going to be here somewhere down the line. So we actually do test internally before we test outside, and this is a similar setup in the sense that we tell little and gather feedback, gather surveys, gather data, and talk with each other, right, to see the reception. So there is this type of feedback, and obviously all of the informal communication that happens in the company, knowledge sharing and idea sharing as well. But I would say that we are, as a company, quite protective of the fact that if there is a game team focused around a specific game, it's their game to make, right? They take a lot of feedback, but it's not like a committee that designs solutions for them, right?
Of course, Kuba, last year in December, Frostpunk 2, amongst other big awards, got the Game Award in Los Angeles. I guess it's a big moment for anyone working in the industry. Can you tell us, how does it work? I mean, you you're nominated, right? So
yes.
You just jump on a plane and you fight for who's going and stuff like that, is it?
Well, unfortunately, Poland is quite far away from LA, right? So we cannot go. Not everyone can go, unfortunately, and not least because the theater is only having so many places, right? But myself and Łukasz, as the game directors, ultimately vision holders, right, for the game, we do tend to go to these types of events, and then other people support us in that. But apart from the fact that we know we are nominated, we don't know anything else, right? You go in blind, you hope for the best, and the show itself makes a huge impression. I was actually fortunate enough to be there also in 2018, because Frostpunk 1 was also nominated in the strategy category, didn't win then, and it was a huge show. But fast forward to 24. It's really a huge event, right? And making games is hard, right? It's like a lot of hard work, but coming to events like this, you really feel the energy in the air, and it's wise not to get hung up on awards, because it's ultimately the players are the judges here, right? But having this moment when you hear Geoff Keighley, right, say Frostpunk 2 was really a magic moment, because of the fact that not only is it that all of those years of and risk-taking, as you say, right, pays off in that way too, is really rewarding, especially for a creative, idea-driven developers as we think of ourselves.
And then you get drunk and have a party.
Obligatorily.
Let's see. You were happy. You were very happy.
Yes.
Kuba, because before I leave you, thank you for joining us. I have a set of 5 quick-fire questions for you. Ready?
Let's see.
Let's see what happens. Ready? Yeah. One thing you love about the gaming industry?
The people.
The people. If HBO picked up the rights to produce a Frostpunk show, who would you cast as the city leader?
Oh my God.
Hard one.
Oh my God. I don't know.
Favorite game to play on the go?
Polytopia.
Last time you had a great game design idea and did it make it into a game?
No, they never do. 1% of them do make it into a game.
One thing you hate about the gaming industry?
How long it takes to make games.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
It was good to have you, and all the best for the future projects.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.